Everyone in Philadelphia was going through Mariota withdrawal Tuesday when they heard about the Sam Bradford trade. It was the most vigor a single player has received in this city since Donovan McNabb was drafted by the team in 1999. Many were calling it the worst trade of all time, and the Fire Chip Kelly hashtag was all over Twitter. But what if I was to tell you that Marcus Mariota may still be an Eagles green next season? Is that something you think you might be interested in? I think so. In this video, I'm going to try and make sense of this Bradford trade, why the Eagles might still be able to land Mariota, discuss the signings of DeMarco Murray, Ryan Mathews, and Walter Thurman, and what the Eagles might do at the wide receiver and safety positions. Let's start with Mariota. Obviously, he's the lightning rod in this city right now. He's the guy that everyone wants to talk about. He's the guy that everyone wants to speculate about. And it's going to be like this until draft time. So we're just going to have to deal with it. All right, so Chip Kelly answered every question Wednesday at his press conference about all the offseason decisions, including ones on Bradford and Mariota. And I'm going to try and decode everything because, you know, coach talk, you can't believe everything they say. You got to read between the lines, right? You know, a lot of it is smoke and mirrors. You don't know what to believe, to be quite honest with you. So one of the first things Chip says about Mariota and all the trade speculation, he was very emphatic when he said this. He said, let's dispel that right now. I think that stuff's crazy. I think Marcus is the best quarterback in the draft. We will never mortgage our future to go all the way up to get somebody like that because we have too many other problems to take care of. Now, this is what the bitter birds have been saying for months. But when the Eagles went and traded McCoy to create cap space, we thought that they were going on a free agent spending spree to fill the holes on the roster so they'd be able to afford to lose the draft picks they'd have to surrender to obtain Mariota. But Philly wasn't able to lure in Devin McCourty or re-sign Jeremy Maclin. Sure, the Birds replaced McCoy's production with Murray and Mathews, but there's still holes at wide receiver, there's still holes at safety, and there's still holes at guard. When it pertains to moving all the way up, keyword being up, to trade for Mariota, I believe Chip. At the same time, you know, what did you expect Chip to say? That he'd do anything to get Mariota? You're not going to say that. The thing that, you know, I've been most scared of a potential Mariota deal at the top of the draft is how many picks the Eagles would have to give up to get him because they know how much Chip covets him and how desperate he might become to land him. So if there is some sort of plan to move all the way up in the draft, which quite frankly, I don't think there is anymore, and I'll explain why in a second, you can't give that team up top complete control of the situation. Because if they are, obviously, they're going to ask for more draft compensation. They're going to ask for a player, maybe like Michael Kendricks or a Fletcher Cox. You don't want to give up all those pieces to get him, obviously. So later in the media session, Chip endorsed Bradford, said that, you know, he isn't a bargaining chip for a potential swap in the draft. He then jokes that he's the only chip in Philadelphia. Then he insisted with a straight face that he had received an offer of a first-round pick for the off-injured Bradford from an unnamed team that very morning. So, was it really true? Who knows? But it seemed like a ploy to potentially enhance his trade value. Why the fuck is Chip saying that out of the blue, you know? So, Chip is saying he won't mortgage the future to go all the way up, again, keyword being up, to get Mariota. But what if he falls out of the top 10? What if Chip knows something that we don't know? What if Mariota just isn't that high on everyone's draft boards? What if Chip is taking a calculated risk and that Mariota falls and Bradford is a backup plan in case it doesn't work out? Okay, so about a month ago, there was a report that came out stating general managers at the top of the draft preferred Bradford over Winston and Mariota because of his low risk, high ceiling. I mean, he was the first pick of the 2010 NFL draft and won Rookie of the Year. But when you look at, you know, Bradford's career numbers thus far, they're very, very pedestrian. His record as a starter is 18-30-1. He has a career completion percentage of 58.6, averaging 6.3 yards per attempt, and he sports just a 79.3 passer rating. Once again, those numbers aren't really that good. And it might be very, very hard to fathom how he can be a solution and how an injury-prone quarterback that is going to make $13 million this season can hold more trade value than Foles. Obviously, you're taking a huge risk with his injury history, but when Bradford does play, he can spin it. You really can't look at the numbers. Bradford is the fourth least accurate quarterback since 2010, sure. But he's never exactly had anyone to throw the ball to in St. Louis. By the way, the third least quarterback on that list is Andrew Luck. I'd say he's pretty fucking good. Going back to the offensive talent in St. Louis, can we really judge a quarterback who's never had a wideout, a tight end, or a running back that has posted over 700 yards in a single season? Forget about 1,000. Forget about 1,000. There's no one that's even gone over 700. So, again, to be fair about Bradford, again, he hasn't been surrounded by offensive talent. There you go. There are your numbers to prove it. Anyway, with Winston, teams are wary of because of his off-the-field baggage. And Mariota, teams are concerned because he was too dependent on the offensive system at Oregon. It may take Mariota a few years to develop, and a team that, up top, they may not have patience for that. So, out of the teams picking in the top 20, teams that might need a quarterback include Tampa Bay at 1, Tennessee at 2, maybe Washington at 5, the Jets at 6, I wouldn't discount the Rams at 10, and you have Cleveland with 2 picks at number 12 and number 19. The Bucs are probably taking Winston. I think the Titans might be content with Zach Mettenberger because Ken Wisenhunt seems to seem to prefer those tall, stiff quarterbacks with a strong arm. Look at Ben Roethlisberger, look at Kurt Warner. The Redskins said the other day that they might take Mariota, but that might have just been a smokescreen, and because they still have Robert Griffin on their roster, even though Jay Gruden doesn't really think highly of him. I initially didn't think Mariota was going to make it past 6, but it seems like the Jets don't think highly of him either. Then you got the Rams. Yeah, they just traded for Foles, and they really like him, but he's only under contract for a year, and they may take a flyer on Mariota in case Foles has a bad season. So, do I think any of this is going to happen? I don't know. It's hard to speculate. It really is. And the other thing that might happen is, you might have a team that trades up into the top 10. But the one team that I think you really got to keep an eye on are the Browns. This is the team to watch. Cleveland, of course, drafted Johnny Manziel last season. But now Johnny Football has turned into Johnny Fireball. He went into rehab with, his little alcohol problem that he has, his little party problems. But when you look at Cleveland, they have 2 first-round picks. So why not use one of them on Mariota? But they were also one of a handful of teams that inquired on Bradford. This is where a potential trade might make sense because they pick at 12. And, you wouldn't really have to give up numerous picks if you're Philadelphia. So I could see a scenario where the Eagles would trade Bradford to the Browns, swap first-round picks, and there you go. All of a sudden you get Chip's golden boy. And the other thing I want to comment on, Mariota had his pro day Thursday in Eugene, and he didn't exactly light it up. It's funny listening to some conspiracy theorists thinking that Mariota, didn't do well on purpose so he could play in Philadelphia. But come on, people. You make more money when you're picked higher than you do when you're lower. So, stop it, guys. Stop it. You're not going to tank a pro day. Please. But let's say someone in the top 10 takes Mariota, and the Eagles are left with Bradford. Now I'm going to talk about Bradford, obviously. Let me say this right now. Bradford has more upside than Foles. But obviously there's a lot of risk for a quarterback who has a pair of ACL tears and prior shoulder problems. Here are the details of the trade if you don't already know. The Eagles traded Foles, a 2016 second-round pick, and a 4th rounder in this year's draft for Bradford and a 5th-round pick. It's a very steep price. I'm not going to lie. But if Bradford doesn't play for the Eagles in 2015, then the Eagles will get a third-round pick back, and if he takes less than 50% of the snaps, Philly receives a fourth-rounder. Obviously, again, everyone severely questioned the decision, and from an injury standpoint, I get it. But if Bradford can stay on the field, I really think he's a perfect fit for what Chip's trying to do. Bradford's smart, he's accurate, has a quick release, and most importantly, he makes quick decisions. How many times have we criticized Foles and Sanchez for holding onto the ball too long? That's what Chip hates the most. Well, you're not going to get that with Bradford. And the other thing about the former Sooner, he played in this offense in Norman. He was in a similar type of spread offense. But, goddamn, from an injury standpoint, again, I'm not going to lie. I'm concerned. I mean, we're talking about a guy that's missed 25 straight games. Foles won 14 games during Chip's tenure so far. Bradford hasn't even taken a snap during that time. So there you go with that. All right, let's move on to DeMarco Murray and Ryan Mathews. Who would have thought that the Eagles would actually get better at the running back position after trading McCoy. And to the people who actually think Murray is a chip to move up the draft, you guys need to stop with that notion. Because if that happens, future free agents will never want to come here. They would never come here. Because, all right, so you're going to sign a guy that's going to potentially want to win a Super Bowl, and then what? You're going to trade him? No guy's going to want that. That would kill Chip's trust throughout the league. So there you go with that point. So I just had to get that out of the way. Obviously, Chip likes to run the ball out of the shotgun. And off the top of my head, I believe Murray was second in the NFL last season, taking handoffs out of that formation. In his press conference Thursday, Murray stated that he had better financial offers, but he took less money for a chance to win a Super Bowl. He also said that Bradford is like a brother to him and a huge influence on why he picked Philadelphia. He also said that Chip runs the same scheme that he was in at Oklahoma. I already talked about that with Bradford, and uttered that he loved running out of the gun. The best part of the conference was when a reporter asked, why he left Dallas, and Murray answered, I felt this was a great place to win a Super Bowl. And it was funny because Howard Eskin, kept trying to, get Murray to say that Philadelphia was a better team than Dallas. But, Murray kept cool, and he played the politically correct card. All I can say is the biggest loser coming out of this Murray signing is Tony Romo's back. Because now teams are going to just rush the shit out of him. Dallas did sign Darren McFadden today to a contract, but yeah, I mean, you want to talk about another guy that's injury prone, well, there you go. And the other thing that's funny to hear from Dallas fans right now, because 2 months ago, they were like, well, Murray's the best running back in the league. But now today, they're like, well, Murray, he was just a product of the offensive line. Oh, man. It's funny how things change in a couple months. Moving on. Chris Maragos was probably the most underrated signing last season in free agency. And in 2015, I think that distinction will go to Walter Thurman. I think he's going to wind up being the other starting quarterback opposite Maxwell. And I really think he's going to impress. Thurman is a guy that's very versatile. He can play outside and inside. And he was a really good corner, prior to getting hurt last year with the Giants. The Eagles still need a receiver, and obviously the name to look out for is Dwayne Bowe. Somewhere over the Dwayne Bowe. Catching passes from Bradford way up high. All right, enough singing. No more of that. And if the Eagles do keep their pick, I can totally see Devontae Parker in an Eagles uniform. So, with that being said, I don't think the position is as dire as people think. Sure, the only receiver on the roster that I really trust is Jordan Mathews, but you still have Zach Ertz at tight end, and Darren Sproles catching passes out of the backfield. So I really think people need to calm down about that. Chip's scheme will take care of everything. I think they'll be okay. But, adding a guy would be nice. As for the safety position, at this point, it might be best to sign some cheaper options and have them battle it out in camp. The NFL draft class at safety is also very, very weak. The only really good one is Landon Collins, and he simply doesn't really fit this scheme. So there you go. Quite frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if the starting safety opposite Malcolm Jenkins week 1 is already on this roster. There's been rumblings that Nolan Carroll might be moving to safety. You still have Earl Wolf. But I think the guy to watch out for is Jerome Copeland. He was signed in December. He was an undrafted rookie last season from William and Mary. So there's that. So I think I covered everything today. Make sure you follow us on Twitter @TheBitterBirds. That's it for today. Later, guys. See ya. And I'll talk to you guys next week. Later.